Hello and welcome to the Road to Tarvalin. Today we're going to take a closer look at the character Moiraine and examine her through a little bit of fine art, some romanticism, and cinematography. So I guess the first thing to ask is, what is romanticism? Because it covers so many things.
With the exemption of things that are industrialized and or explained through science. Like those were
Yes.
some of the things, like when thinking about what romanticism isn't, because like you said, it covers so many things. Like those are the two things, like they don't really like civilization and they're not huge fans of the industrial period that is rolling along as these artists are coming into their own, and they have a pushback against like science and almost the logical approach. They wouldn't be white Aja.
Right. Right.
The white Aja would not fit in with a bunch of romantics as defined by.
Yeah, I feel like a big emphasis on individuality and kind of like this spontaneous freedom and being able to kind of live by your own rules. There's a lot of romantic art that is heavily based in this solitary life. And I think that's one of those things where when I'm thinking about Moraine, really to the exception of Lan, this is her. Like she
Yep.
has her one goal. She's on the road and she's alone. And I really kind of like feel that in my bones about Moraine.
And the landscapes that she encounters because of it, like
Yeah.
the fact that she doesn't spend the majority of her time living inside the confinements of being in a city or even being the person that everyone thought she was supposed to be. Like,
Right.
they wanted her to be the queen of Kyrian. And she was like, nope.
Yeah, she really, I mean, what is expected of her, she shucks to the wayside more than once. As a young woman, no, I'm not going to be the queen. I'm going to the White Tower. Then she's in the White Tower, and instead of becoming one with this group, yeah, she becomes an Aes Sedai. She picks the Blue Aja, but she also flees the tower from pretty much the beginning of
Yep.
her time as an Aes Sedai. So she is
Yep.
raised to the Shalt, and then she is out the door,
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. She is barely in the tower at all. I mean, I think the TV show does a really good job of showing how sparse her room is and how,
Yes.
I mean, really, there's just like
This
nothing in there.
No, and this is another thing that is a like heavy characteristic of romanticism. It's not something bougie, you know what I mean? It's like kind of simple. And when you get that image of Moraine in her room within the White Tower, yeah, like she's dedicated her life to one thing. She lives in a standard way lower than what her birthright is.
Absolutely.
So she's kind of this inspirational character, and I feel like there are so many things about her that are defined by this romantic art that we all know and maybe not we're not able to very quickly recognize if you're not really familiar with it. But
Yeah.
once you start looking at it, you see a lot of those themes within the Wheel of Time. And I think Moraine, just being the character she is, was the first person that I really wanted to focus on with this.
It's really well matched. The Romantic period is kind of defined as happening mid to late 18th century, probably up through the beginning, through the French Revolution. Because when did.
It's late 18th to mid 19th, I believe.
Okay. No, I think you're right on that. That sounds right. And one of the things about that time period is the revolutionary aspect of what's happening that's being picked up from like what's happening in the colonies in North America, how that's reverberating through Europe. And it really didn't matter where European artists came from, they all had some exposure in some way to what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them broke away from what was seen as being traditional. Friedrich, the artist that we're going to talk about, his art in particular was seen as being very different from what had come out before him, which one of the things that I was watching said that it was usually like sunny villas and
Yes.
vacation in
Mm-hmm.
southern Italy and things like that, like things that are bright and soft. Baroque period is like
Yeah.
what is bumping up against this. And like, think about that girl in the frilly pink dress on the
Yeah.
swing. Like, we're going from that to these very stark landscapes.
Yeah.
And
Dark nature, dark forests,
mm-hmm,
stormy seas, people
mm-hmm,
overlooking vistas where it looks almost downright apocalyptic in some senses.
mm-hmm.
And I think, well, let's go ahead and I will put up this image.
Done. I love this.
Okay, so here's our lovely Moiraine, played by Rosamund Pike.
I think she did a beautiful job.
Yeah.
I think she did a
Yes.
really good job. Just want
I
to go
I
ahead.
have to, I mean, I have to like just bow down to whoever directed the cinematography for this shot in particular because I have so many feelings about it, like
Totally.
emotionally, and
Mm-hmm.
it's such a good shot.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about romanticism, and we were talking, Tracy brought up earlier Caspar David Friedrich,
Mm-hmm.
this is an image that when I was thinking about Moraine, I was like, this image is her. This is the one that I was seeing, and I was like, this shot is Moraine standing in the White Tower. There's
Mm-hmm.
obviously some subtle differences here. I mean, the colors and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
but there are so many things about this image that I feel like coincides with Moraine's story and her journey
Mm-hmm.
and her character throughout the
Mm-hmm.
books. I mean, from start to finish.
So Friedrich, this is said the women in his paintings are assumed to be his wife,
Yes.
and
Yes.
frequently they are from the back. You never
Yes.
see their face, so you don't
Yes.
really get an idea of what they're thinking about, just
Mhm.
from what their body says from behind.
Mhm.
And like for this particular one, the way that her hands are kind of like off to the sides,
Mhm.
from Moraine's, she's like, her stance is resolute. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Like, just from the back, there's so much about her that it's like, I don't know. I feel sadness. I feel longing in this image for her, but I don't feel her like opening herself to what's around her because her hands are by her side. And
Okay.
I can understand it would probably look a little weird if we like zoomed in and her hands were like
Up.
open,
Yeah.
but if they were, wouldn't we have a different idea of how she's feeling towards the landscape around her? So I feel as though everything about this is just so very intentional and says
Mhm.
so much about who she is. And I love it.
Yeah, there's something too about this image that both of these images that almost feel a bit voyeuristic. Like
Yes. Hmm.
we're seeing these women, but you can't quite totally see everything in front of them. Obviously, like one of the big differences is this woman in the painting,
Hmm.
she's not constrained by anything. There's
Mm-mm.
nothing surrounding her. She's fully outdoors.
Hmm.
Where on Moraine's side, she's kind of like enclosed
Hmm.
in this arch from within the tower. So there is like a big difference here where Moraine almost could feel like a caged bird in this moment.
Ooh, yeah.
like, she loves Swan, she
Mhm.
loves her relationship with her, but if we go back to New Spring, I mean, this was something in the books that was a bit different, where her and Swan had to take that step apart for
Mhm.
safety, for secrecy, for their greater cause,
Yeah.
and so in the TV show, the shot kind of reenacts that moment for me
Mhm.
where she's like, "Okay, now's the time. Like, I'm on my own. I have this journey to set forth, and
Mhm.
this is my calling. This is what I need to be doing anyways. I have to put the person I love behind me." So it's kind of like this, it is somber and it is sad, but it is like a joyous occasion. Like, this
Mhm.
is her calling.
Yeah.
And whether or not she wants this to be her job, she feels
Mhm.
like she has to do it, that she
Yeah.
is the person who needs to do it. And it's just a really interesting, beautiful shot to think about all of the subtle things going on with her and the
Mhm.
landscape in front of her.
Mhm. And I think the thing that is also intriguing about the setting on either side for these women, the, Friedrich painting, she could take a step and be in, like, the landscape around her, and, like, it almost feels like her direction is maybe kind of sort of more set.
Mhm,
Um, but with Moraine, like you said, caged bird, she
mhm,
takes a step off. She's in the tower. She's very separate from
mhm.
her surroundings, which makes things feel a little bit more uncertain. Like,
Yeah.
will she be down in the city? Will she be taking a boat along one of the rivers? Will she soon be traveling by horse across those rolling hills? Like,
Mhm.
what is laid out before her feels so much like, "Are you ready?" It feels
Yeah.
so much like New Spring,
Yeah, it's like she's, I mean, at any second she could step off the cliff, you
right?
know? Like,
And
that's
off she goes. Like,
mhm.
this is and just a little note on Moraine's outfit here. This suits Book Moraine in a
Yeah,
way that so many of the other outfits, I mean, I don't really think she has many outfits, but, like, her riding outfit,
yeah.
this feels like Book Moraine to
Oh, yeah.
me. I
Yeah.
love it. I
Some
love it.
divided riding skirts. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I envision when
Mhm.
I hear it in the books or read
Same.
it in the
And
books.
those sweeping skirts, like, you can see her, like, just and I think there are moments in the TV show where she's wearing this and she's striding around and you can hear the swish of her skirts and
Mhm.
just I'm holding the book in my hands while I watch her, and it's lovely. Love
Yeah.
it.
I
But yeah,
think,
these go ahead, please.
well, I mean, I almost feel like at some points there could be contradictions here when I think
Mm.
about romanticism, like emphasis on emphasizing emotion and
Mhm.
feeling and not just reason
Mm.
and order. Where when you think about the Aes Sedai, it's very poker face, show
Calm,
nothing.
controlled.
Mhm.
You need to be able to hum and shoot at Trollocs and dance a jig all at the same time.
Yeah.
You got this, Moraine. We love you.
But in the broader sense, I mean, I feel like Moraine really is an exception to this because
Mhm,
we go back in her timeline when she's just starting off in the tower, right? Is around the time she's getting raised and she's
mhm,
off hunting for the Dragon Reborn and she starts her journey. She comes into contact with all of these women throughout New
mhm,
Spring, and we see just how many emotions she really does have and how much she really cares and
mhm.
what she's willing to do to help the people that she comes in contact with, which is
She
a little bit
definitely
different.
she definitely likes handing out money.
Yeah, yeah, she really is. I mean, she comes in contact with some people that have had major losses, and
Mhm.
Moiraine Damodred's coffers run very deep, so she hands it out to
I
almost
mean, what
anyone who
else is
needs
she
it,
gonna use it for?
right? Travel.
She she barely needs it for that,
Mhm.
you know? Like,
Yeah,
I love that about her. That actually is a very romantic idea
right?
of, like, giving away everything you have in support of the people around you. Like,
Right. And
okay.
she gave away her birthright to
Yeah.
rule a nation even. And I
Mhm.
mean, it's for this cause. It's for the idea that if the dark one or if the dark one wins, pretty much humanity as we know it will have no more free choice.
I love that you just said that.
So, I mean, this is one of these really, really big themes with Romanticism. Like,
Mhm.
people having a sense of self and be able to focus on themselves and live peacefully, whether it's within nature or within society, but how they want to and how they want to
Mhm.
express themselves. And if the dark one wins, I mean, you can kiss that goodbye because
Yeah.
that's out the window. So Moiraine is really fighting for this, deep romantic sense of, people being able to live and make their own
Mhm.
choices, which, oof, girl, love you.
Right? Like that I'm thinking of that moment with her and Logain. First, you were reading my mind.
Okay. Good.
Seriously, like what I was thinking about, like back to like the romantic idea is like
Mhm,
a lot of this is in reaction to the Industrial Revolution,
mhm,
where you're having this huge influx of people into cities, which means that you have sickness and poverty and homelessness. And let's be honest, that's all miserable. The backlash against it is really kind of understandable.
mhm,
And you also have this idea that if those things are allowed to prevail, if
mhm,
this need for cities and cramming people together and not thinking about their well-being, if that's what we're facing versus this idea that the romantics had where it's like kind of more of a collective, while it's still individual, while it still focuses on the
mhm,
individual, it does think about like the collective good of what can happen. That's why so many of them were revolutionaries, is that they believed in the power of change. They wanted to prevent oppression as they saw it. And that's Warrior Moraine. Off
yeah,
she
it's so
goes.
very Blue Aja.
It's just crazy. Do you
Mhm.
think do you think Jordan like pulled all these things together? Like I know he was a really smart guy, so I can totally see it, but I'm like,
Oh, yeah, I mean, maybe not like he was like, "I'm a big fan of Romanticism," but I think
mhm.
that just within his work, there are so many things that are borrowed and taken from, and I don't mean that in a bad way,
Mm-mm.
but I think him just feeling like this major scholar of literature,
Mhm.
that there would have been works of art and literature and all different kinds of things that influenced him, whether he, whether he would say, yes, like I am definitely inspired by Romanticism. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but I feel like he's kind of like the sponge in a sense where
Mhm.
he's just experienced so many different things and drawn from so many other ideas that I think it is influential in a
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's a it's an impressive or like connection. Like and the fact that even if he wasn't deliberately thinking about it, that the things that he was exposed to lead to us being able to have conversations about the
Yeah.
possibility of it. I
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah, and it's I mean, too, what's really cool is we're experiencing the story now on, like, different fronts of
Mm.
entertainment. So, like, we
Mhm.
had the books, we could read
Mhm.
about it and imagine our characters and see them in our minds, and now actually
Mhm.
being able to see them on the screen and getting the influences from all the people behind the scenes. I mean,
Mhm.
we have so many of these just amazing jaw-dropping landscapes, which is,
Yeah.
I think, one of the things within the television show that I just adore.
Yep.
I mean, show me one of these big panoramic views, and I'm just like, "Ah, yeah, like, that's what I
Mhm.
like."
Remember how long it took us to get past the one scene where we were like, is that an aqueduct?
Yeah.
Is it a road? Is it a bridge? What is that? Like,
Yeah.
it was just so funny because those are the things that we do get kind of like, even in the books, those are the things that we get like caught up in looking at. And like you
Swept
said,
away.
seeing it visibly is just like, ooh, it's
Yeah.
candy. It's so good.
Right. And that's, I mean, I think that the story itself is a romantic work of art.
Yeah.
It's really, really all encompassing.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's so many relationships between all of our characters and their emotions and
Mhm.
this world that they're living in, which is like such a major theme of romanticism. And
Mhm.
they're expressing themselves, and we're getting to express that with them.
Mhm.
And now with the TV show, we're like seeing these romantic works of art where it could almost be these old paintings
Mm.
of
Mhm.
beautiful shots over, mountainsides where we have our characters looking out into the distance and they're teeny
They're
tiny.
so
And
little.
yeah, it's really cool. And yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that the costume designer, Isis Musendin, did so much research through art
Mhm.
and fashion to be able to
Yes.
come up with the and culture, to be able to come up with the costumes. Like, she was able to work with various people who pointed her in the direction of, like, what Jordan had in mind,
Mhm.
and, oh my gosh, Lan's outfit, like, the fact that she actually got input from Daniel Henney and used, like, a bit of his culture to design his costume is
Mhm.
just, like, how awesome to bring all of those things into one place. And, of course, with, like, Moiraine being, like, what is it, 18th century French influence is supposed
Mhm.
to be, like, the strongest for, like, the silhouette for her.
Yeah, I know that it was, like, the French silhouette,
Mhm.
but then she pulled from other things too, like the
Mhm.
color palette from Picasso's Blue
Yep.
Period,
Yeah.
which, I mean, when I first saw Maureen's outfit, I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, wow," they almost went with, like, a more green hued
Mhm.
blue than I was
Mhm.
expecting. And when
Mhm.
I heard her say, like, "Yeah, we used Picasso's Blue Period to bring in the color palette," and I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh my gosh, that makes total sense." And it really works though. I mean,
Mhm. It does.
I know she said on an interview, blue is a scary color because it really is. I mean, not everyone can wear like true blue, like a
Mhm.
royal blue.
Mhm.
And this was a really cool way to kind of like have fun with color and make it all work together.
Mhm. Maureen's coloring is very good for blue,
Yeah.
both in the book and Rosamund Pike, like, that really pale skin, dark hair. Does she have brown eyes or blue eyes? I can't remember. I know Rosamund Pike has blue, but
Moraine in
either
the books, I think, is brown.
I think you're right, but that coloring just does so well with it. Like, in my book, it almost everybody wants to put red on people who have pale skin and dark hair. On me, it just looks really extra, like, I just look red. I look so flushed.
It's because
It's
you're pink
bad.
tone.
Yeah. So if I wear something that's, like, more jewel toned, like a dark royal blue or sapphire blue, it does really well with my skin, and it's the same for these colors that are pulled together for Rosamund Pike as Moiraine.
Do you think there's anything to be said about Picasso's Blue Period?
I think the thing that could probably be pulled the most from that painting without being, like, really depressing would probably be, like, the longing and the sadness that's in that painting.
Which one?
The blue oh, I'm thinking of, the one with the man holding the guitar.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
the
it's
old
just
guitarist. Yeah.
I think that's probably the most well-known
Mhm.
from his Blue Period, um, and so when that palette comes to mind, like, I see it very much in this dress here for Moraine, like, they're dark, almost black, and the shades as they, like, hit the light, how they go from almost a lighter to a darker blue, and in that painting, the longing of not being able to be with or where someone, or where you want to be with someone you love, is exhausting and depressing and really
Hmm.
sad. And I think that's one of the things that really resonates with people when they see that painting. I know it does with me.
Hmm.
And even though we can't see Maureen's face right now, like in the picture that we have of her,
Hmm.
we kind of know what's coming,
Yeah.
like she has a choice to make. It's gonna, like, she could be crying for all we know,
Right.
like
Right.
this is almost a private moment that we get to see. And so we
Oh, we
really
only
don't
get to half
know.
see it,
Yeah,
like it
yeah,
feels very voyeuristic. Like we
yep,
we can't see the emotions on her face. So
mhm,
all we can do is speculate on what they might be,
yeah.
which yeah,
In this moment, huge range would be my
huge
guess.
range.
Yeah, complicated.
I want to go back to these again. I
Okay.
was thinking while you were talking about her not being where you want to be with the person you want to be with.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking obviously about Swan Sanche,
Mhm,
but it's almost too kind of like this catch 22 because she can't be doing what she wants to do, which
mhm.
is searching for the Dragon Reborn and having the love of her life with her at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you do when the two things that you want more than anything are the two things that can't work together at the same
Mhm.
time? It's
Yeah.
like, oof.
And for Moraine, sacrificing the hunt for the dragon is basically sacrificing the future of the world.
Yeah.
And when that is brought smack up against being with someone you love, especially with Swan and Moraine, like they know it. They both know it. Like Swan doesn't try to hold on to Moraine, she lets her go. And that has to be incredibly difficult for her.
Yeah.
I mean, even if Moraine was in the tower, they wouldn't be able to be together in a way that they might want to be simply because of Swan's position as the Amerlin.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe there would be other reasons, but that's the main one in the series that I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get a lot of hope and I get a lot of sadness from this photo at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it
Thanks for
is.
joining us on the road to Tarvalin, and make sure you check out our scheduled stream for Saturday the 6th. We are going to be having a lot of giveaways, and come celebrate our 100th podcast episode with us. Thanks for watching.